everybody, today we're going to talk about the difference between short and long-term real estate investing. And what I mean by that is not the length you're going to hold the property, but short-term rentals versus long-term rentals, okay? I think everyone understands the difference between short and long. That's a definition of time, and I don't think we really need to go into too much detail about the difference in time. But some people are still confused, so let's do that real quick. Short-term is less than 30 days, mostly considered nightly, okay? This is where most people think of Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, those kind of things, right? Where you can borrow a property from the landlord for a night, usually a vacation property on the lake, something real nice, to hang out at for a weekend with your family, right? But that's not really all it is. It could be weekly, I think. It could also be up to a month. There's a lot of traveling nurses, a lot of people, grandparents that need to go hang out with their grandkids in a city and don't want to have a hotel room for a week. So they go and grab a short-term rental property from a landlord. Usually it's a single family home or a condo, townhome, something like that. After 30 days or 30 plus days, I think you get into something called midterm. We're not really even going to talk about midterm. We're really talking about the difference between short and long-term, but there's a midterm category that's furnished rentals for 30 plus days. Now, this is coming into vogue a little bit because there are a lot of places that are shutting down the nightly rentals, and they're saying you have to be 30 days or more. That's not a problem. There's a lot of people that actually want to rent your house for a month. COVID really kind of shook everything up, and a lot of people aren't returning to work. So it makes a lot of sense where you could go and maybe travel somewhere, rent a house for a month, live there, understand the scene, and work from that location. So why not do a 30-day stay? That's great. We all know what long-term rentals are, right? I'm going to say 6 months plus, right? Usually people are thinking a year, maybe 2 years, but 6 months plus really is what I would think is a long-term rental. And really, I think it breaks down to whether or not you're bringing your furniture, right? If you're doing a short-term rental investment, you're furnishing the property, you're going to have the internet hooked up, the water and gas in your name, electricity in your name, and you're going to be taking care of all those bills. And you're going to be passing that on to the guest as well. But those bills are on you. Whereas long-term, the tenant is putting their furniture and their belongings into your property. They are going to stay there for a long, long time. Long enough to make moving, in and out feasible, right? And that's when they really need to shove off those utilities into their name. So sure, short-term rentals pay a lot better, like 2 or 3 times better than the long-term rentals. They really do, but you have to take into account you have other fees. I highly suggest getting the manager to manage your properties. I don't suggest doing them yourselves unless they're nearby. If you have short-term rental properties that are nearby, then you can manage them yourself, but it's a lot of effort. I've done it, and I don't really want to do it again. It's a lot of checking. Even if you have maids, even if you have all that stuff set up, it's just a lot of work. So we outsource all of our management of short-term rental properties to other people because it is more work. So even though you're making 2 or 3 times the income on a short-term rental property, you're not necessarily making that much in profit. You have to first take off the management fee, which is 10 to 20%, maybe 30% in some situations, of the gross income. And then you need to back out all of your utilities to get your net operating income. And then depending on the debt you have on it, you may not actually make a profit at all. And that's okay. If it's a property that you wanted to purchase to hold for a long time, maybe move there someday, or just wanted the appreciation, that's great. All those things are legit. But hopefully, if not, then you are making the cash flow, right? The other thing is, if you wanted to do a long-term rental, your cash flow is going to be a little bit smaller. Maybe even in this market, because the home prices have gone up so much, maybe the no cash flow. So that's really the difference. Cash flow in a long-term rental is going to be lower, but you're not going to have as many bills. It'll be more consistent, and you probably can manage it from anywhere you are without a manager because you only need to interact with the tenant maybe once or twice a year, right? Versus short-term rentals where you're going to be talking to the tenant every day, the guest, not the tenant. Same thing. Someone's borrowing the property from you and they're paying you money for it. We can call them whatever we want to call them, but that's the deal. You're going to have to talk to that person a lot. So that's really the difference. If you really want to be a hands-off passive investor, you either definitely need to have a manager in place for short-term rentals, or you need to go do long-term rentals, and then maybe even get a manager in place. Just depends on where you are. But that's really the difference. The difference between short and long-term is really about the definition of time and whether or not the property comes furnished. And I think it all has to do, you break down the definition between short and long, depending on whether or not the person's bringing their furniture. That's my opinion. Now, it's not very technical, and it's probably not right at all, but that's how I think about it in common parlance, right? So if you're interested in short-term rentals or long-term rentals and want to know more, comment below. I do read my comments. But also, if you're in the Central Texas area, hit me up. I'm got a list of both going that are for sale if you're interested in buying one, or if you're interested in selling one, I'm interested in buying it. So comment below, reach out, let me know how I can help.